Finally, I figured out how to get us on. Are you good on your end?
Yeah, I'm good.
You're live? All is
I
well?
am.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. How
With that.
how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm still getting over a really bad bout with strep throat stuff. I sound really icky. I feel like death warmed over. But other than that, I'm doing great. What about you?
Yeah. Well, I am good. Just been busy. I've not been sick.
I'm glad.
Trying to disengage a little bit more and not spend all of my waking hours working. So,
Yeah, I love your hat, by the
yeah.
way.
Oh, thanks. It's my husband's. I
Oh,
didn't really I didn't put on any makeup today and I don't know. I'm on an anti-makeup day today. So I was like, well, I have to do something that looks slightly cute.
yeah, I love it. So what's new in your neck of the woods?
Um, well, let's see. You know what? I haven't really, it's weird. Like things have been changing like on the, so social media has gotten crazy with their anti-pseudoscience stuff and like the not wanting to monetize anything that's related to pseudoscience. So I have been trying to find different content to write about, and I have been down the sort of influencer rabbit hole, which has been mind-numbing, but also quite fascinating. It's a psychological test of idiotic proportions.
I bet. Have you been affected really by the new like keywords and stuff that YouTube's put in?
Yes, I had a ton of videos that got demonetized last week. So I had to go back and have a bunch of them like manually reviewed. And some of them they got like through a manual review were monetized, but a lot of them weren't,
Hmm.
which makes me realize that talking about pseudoscience on YouTube is really going to be a thing of the past.
Yeah, there's not really any sort of procedures or whatever in place to catch people who are like trying to work against that. So
I
everybody
know.
that tries to debunk it gets caught up with the people who are trying to put that stuff out there. It's really not
Yeah,
right.
this is what happened to me on Facebook too, which is really why I had to like walk away from it because if I'm not going to get views and I'm not going to get paid, it's really as much as I love doing it, it doesn't make sense to spend all of my time to not have anyone read it.
That happened on Facebook. I thought Facebook was a lot more lax than YouTube.
Mm-mm. They changed their algorithms in March and my views tanked. I dropped 500,000 views in a month.
Wow,
And I haven't recovered
really?
anywhere close to where I was at before.
That's so fascinating. I think
I
that
know.
it's really unfortunate. Like I was talking to Jimmy last night, and YouTube is built on the backs of its creators. Like
Right.
all the content and stuff is driven by the creators, and YouTube, for whatever reason, just throws their hands up in the air and says, we don't want to promote pseudoscience, which I get and I'm all for. But if other people get caught up that are actually putting correct information out there and trying to right sort of the wrongs, or put out the
Right.
information that's correct, they don't care. And
No.
there's a very good reason for that, and that is because there is no substitute for YouTube. There is no streaming platform that comes anywhere close to YouTube. So they've got a
No.
monopoly. They can do whatever they damn well please.
It just sucks because, like, well, it finally got monetized, but I did like a video on like the debunking two myths related to breast cancer, and immediately it was like automatically demonetized. And I was like, but I'm honestly helping people by telling them like your bras aren't going to cause cancer and antiperspirant won't give you cancer too. and it wasn't, and all the information that I presented was from the American Cancer Society or like cancer.gov, which is through the United States, the National Institute of Health. So it wasn't like,
you've got a dude in another country that's just sitting there all day long getting these notifications about manual reviews, and they don't even watch them. Here's an interesting point. There is a video that we did with a guy named Ricky Frack, and he is a coin expert. So what he does is he talks about how coins were the original meme, and tells the story about back in ancient Greek or whatever. It's an educational thing. There's nothing controversial about it. It's all total education. That video is demonetized. However, the most controversial video on the channel that caused a big stir when we had the debate on the impact of slavery, guess what?
Yeah.
Monetized.
So the white nationalist, whatever his name was.
Yes. Yes. That video.
And literally every video I do with you is demonetized. Every video.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's gonna by default that happens. I think just because YouTube knows what we talk about around here.
I know, and our video on for-profit education was demonetized, and I'm like, literally, we're just talking about helping people not fall for the scam, and
really, mine wasn't. That's another thing. On my end, it was a lot of it has to do too, though, with tags. Like if you, hey, buddy. I love his shirt.
Okay. Good night, honey bun.
That's a cool shirt.
People were telling me that I need to, do my streams later because my son always comes and interrupts. But they don't realize that before I go online, before I went online tonight, I gave him a bath. I did all of his medicine. We played in the bath. I played with him while he was in the bathtub. It's they don't see that offline I'm actually doing stuff with him, and they assume that just because I'm online right now, I'm somehow neglecting my son.
Yeah, well, listen, I've learned something from my time in doing YouTube, and that is that people have an opinion about everything. Things that are correct, things that are incorrect, the way that you talk, the way that you. I remember when we first started the show, I got this comment. And I'll never. The guy's name was, I think his name was Brock or Blaine or whatever. But he wrote this 2-page long comment where he was like, "I don't understand you and your line of thinking. You're an uncultured hick that's pretending to you're trying to use big words or whatever." And first of all, if anybody knows me or has been watching, I don't try to use. I avoid big words at all possible. I do not try to flaunt I am an intellectual or an academic by any means. I'm just me. But I remember from that point I was like, you know what? The clock that I used to have, and I promise that we'll move on after this, and we'll get into the news. But I used to have a clock that was behind me that ran out of batteries, and I got more comments on the clock being stopped and that I needed to pay more attention to changing the batteries in the clock than on the content of the video. It's just funny what people
lately, because I've been covering a lot of stuff in the influencer world. I think people have come to my channel expecting me to be a drama channel, but that's not what I do. And so all of my comments are you need to do shorter videos. And I'm like, that's not what I do. I don't do 10-minute blurbs. Yeah. And then if I say to them, that's not how I do my channel, then they criticize me for not listening to them, or I'm too big to listen to them, or I'm arrogant for not.
Start your own channel, start your own your own channel and do it that way. And
I think they think that everybody that's on YouTube is doing this to have 20 million subscribers or whatever, and that's really not my goal. This has just been sort of a hobby, fun thing for me to do as a way to expand my reach with my column, and just get my feet wet with this type of media in the event that I might want to do a podcast, or if I do more interviews with my writing. And so it's not like I'm
Sure.
trying to be like, you know, the influencers like, oh, like Jake Ryan and Tana, whatever her name is, who pretend
Yeah.
like they're in a relationship, or the beauty influencers. Like that's just,
Yeah.
I'm so far past that. I'm 40 years old.
I don't get it nearly as much as I used to, but I think people
Yeah.
have gotten to the point where they realize that like I don't tell people to like or subscribe either. I've never like rambled on about, you know, like if you're digging this stream, you know, smash that like. That's just never been.
Yeah.
I just like talking to people, and so that's what I do. And if you know if people want to come along for the ride, great. And if not, then eventually I will. I'll probably take up knitting or you know, something else, makeup maybe. That would be good for me.
Yeah, you know, I feel like I've kind of I've like developed this really nice following of people that are very respectful, and they
Hmm.
are, you know, I can get some of my live chats, depending on the topic, can be really busy. Other ones can be kind of quiet, but the loyal followers, they really like the longer videos. A lot of them are
Yeah.
like my age, and they just like to listen to the podcasts, and they like to learn something.
Hmm.
And that's really my goal, is I just want to help educate, and
Yeah.
that's it. Like,
There's
I'm
a,
not here to,
I totally feel you. There's a lot of good people out there too. Like, and that's why like I love doing this. Is like you get a core group of people that are just like amazing people, and
yep.
there's no substitute for that. You know, whether you have 1,000 subscribers or 100,000 subscribers, if you have you know a core group of people that believe in what you do and you know have a vested interest and that sort of thing, then it really makes all the bullshit that you have to put up with, you know, from YouTube and you know
Yes.
and all that stuff worth it. So, thank you
Oh
to
my
you
God,
guys.
I know. Yes, I love my girl. I love my girls. It's when I have a couple guys, but
Sexist.
yeah. There was this, I was getting dragged all over Twitter a couple days ago, and people were attacking me left and right. And I was mostly ignoring it, trying not to get involved, but it was amazing because I had a bunch of people on Twitter that like follow me religiously, sort of sending me information and getting into fights. And I'm like, you don't really have to defend me, but they are like super
Yeah.
protective of me.
Twitter's a,
So
you know, like I said, I've been sick for the past couple weeks, and I have stayed away. I'll probably
yeah,
venture back on there tomorrow, but like I just with the way that I've been like down and out with these fevers and stuff like that, I was like, I am not going anywhere near that dumpster fire.
yeah,
Like,
no one's been dragged more than you lately. I mean, my
well,
God.
that's okay. That's you know. That happens. That's going to happen. There are people that I'll say this about it, and then we'll move on. But there are people that are going to you know jump to conclusions. There are people that you know, are going to jump to one side because you know they're passionate about that particular person or group, and it's very easy to get caught up in sort of a drama that you can be a part of, and you know you can choose a side, and you know you can
Right.
and jump on you know one end or that sort of thing. But that's completely fine. I think that the change in the direction that has taken place over the past couple of weeks is a good change. We've gotten rid of a lot of toxic elements. Like we were talking
Yeah.
about, that the core people really shine through. And I should take a second and really thank you guys. I know that there's been a lot of people that have reached out to me. I've had a lot going on. I think last Saturday I had 23,000 and some notifications through various
Yeah.
social media platforms, text messages, emails, that sort of thing. And so I just got to the point where you know it's overwhelming. Like
Oh yeah.
it's really
Yeah.
overwhelming and draining. And I promise I'm
No.
not ignoring any of you guys. I feel the love. I will get back to you and express personally my thanks for reaching out. But I'm coming through that whole adjusting to that sort of bombardment with things because it's a lot
Yeah.
to.
And it's just gonna take time for like this new flavor of yours to come together and for, you know, people to figure out what, if they want to stay, if they want to go, and then for you to build again, you know, and that's really what it's all about.
Yeah, and we later this week I will be detailing. I'm going to go sort of through piece by piece the new the channel direction. I've got a lot of things that I think are exciting that we're going to do that's new. That is going to be sort of a about face and change on particular days. There are a couple days each week now where I'm going to have you guys that watch. It's called Stream Team, where you're going to be my co-hosts. I will go through at the beginning of the show. If anybody that wants to come on, I'll bring you into the call. And if the subject matter is something that you're liking, you're interested in, I'll bring you on, and you can co-host with me. I think I'm gonna do that on Friday nights, and you can sort of be along for the ride. I want to get a lot more involvement with you guys. And let me put this out there too. I and Katie. I would love if you can at some point within the next 3 weeks, maybe put this out somewhere too. But I saw a statistic the other day. I was reading through some new stuff, and the amount of families that have just heartbreaking stories at Christmas time with kids, and they're struggling, like whether it be they lost their job or whatever. It was heartbreaking, like it was heart-wrenching. And so I thought about it for a while, and what I want to do is I want to do this thing that we'll call Operation Saint Click. And basically, if you guys out there, you know people, whether if you're religious, then through your church, your communities, that sort of thing, you know if there are families out there that are struggling, they've lost their job, that sort of thing. In the next 3 weeks, what I want to do is have people email me those stories. And for our Patreons, what I'm going to do is have, as hard as this is going to be, but we have to sort of cap it off at some point. We'll pick 3 families and get a list, like an ultimate Christmas dream list from those families for their kids. We can build we can build an Amazon wish list with those toys, and then people from now until December can go on, if they're able, and purchase these toys, and it can be sent directly to the families that they're going to. And so on Christmas Day, we'll have the families record, the kids coming down and seeing, actually having a really decent Christmas, just because it's something easy that I feel like we can do. And it doesn't take a lot of effort. So if you know somebody that's a family that's struggling, they lost their job, and they have kids, and I want to do what we can to sort of make this Christmas different for them. So please email me those stories, and then patrons, on the private hangout this Saturday, we will talk about it more, but you guys will be the ones that go through the stories, and like I said, as hard as it is going to be, we'll pick maybe 3 families and do that. Okay, are we ready to look at who's crazy in this country?
Yes.
This is Nonsense News, and we start with the Catholics. A Catholic bishop plans to dump holy water from a plane to exorcise the city's demons. Monsignor Ruben Dario Jaramillo Montoya, Catholic Bishop of Buenaventura, Colombia, plans to drop holy water across the city to exorcise its demons. Apparently, there have been 51 murders in just 5 months, and the bishop wants to help the best way he knows how. It will be a great public demonstration for the entire community, where we will pour holy water to see if so many bad things end and the devil comes out of here, the priest said. For the moment, Bishop Jaramillo is coordinating the work with the National Navy and the mayor in order to have an aircraft for July the 13th, when the Fiesta de San Buenaventura. I feel like I always murder Spanish.
Buenaventura.
You know, it's such a sexy language, and I'm over here. I'm uncultured hicking it.
You have to learn to roll your R's.
I can do that. Yeah, I can do that.
Buenaventura to
Yeah.
Ventura.
I can also tie a cherry stem with just my tongue.
I can't.
I can't really
I
either.
feel like
I'm
you're.
just,
I feel like you're lying.
I am lying. That's the patron saint. So anyway, yeah, the Catholics still doing crazy shit. I just thought that was something that was you kind of like have to take a step back and go, bless their heart. You know,
You're right.
there's water shortages all over the planet, and
Yeah,
this
and Flint, Michigan probably still doesn't have clean water.
yeah, like okay, if the devil is in this city and you're gonna dump water from like it doesn't like it rains, I'm assuming there. Like what is the
Yeah,
difference?
I don't know. The
Anyways,
symbolism. It's the
I
Catholic
guess.
Church. They have to find a way to waste their money so they don't have to pay victims of sexual abuse.
Yeah, what they should do is like write holy symbols with those planes, like a cross and then
Yeah.
the Virgin Mary. That would be spectacular. But nope, they're just gonna dump a bunch of water. More power to them. This was something that's kind of, as many of you know, I had a little bit of a scare a couple weeks ago when I went to the doctor originally about my strep throat. They found a mole on my back that they thought could be cancerous, and
Hmm.
that's I go in the beginning of July to get that cut out. But I saw this and I was like, you know what? Like, I just can't believe this. Like, when of all the things that you can do that are
Oh
stupid,
God.
let me just
Can you
read.
imagine these sunburns? Oh my gosh.
No, and
It's
it's
like
it's
it's like using baby oil.
it's just like okay, the 1970s trend of using cooking oil as sunscreen is making a modern day comeback. More than a fifth of Brightons are. Is it Britons or Bright? I know Brighton is a city there. I can't tell if this is a
That's Brighton. That's not
yeah
Britain.
Brighton. Okay. Are now turning to their kitchen cupboards in a misguided attempt to get the perfect tan. A poll commissioned by ASDA found that a fifth of Brightons use cooking oil instead of sun cream in a misguided attempt to tan faster. The poll found that they don't bother with sunscreen at all, even though 1 in 10 suffered severe burns that they were forced to go to the doctor for. Experts said that cooking oil provides no UV protection and heats up when the skin is exposed to the sun, burning the skin and leaving tissue damaged. The fact that there are medical professionals that have to explain this to adults, like cooking
I
oil,
know.
like what do we use cooking oil for? Fried chicken,
Cooking.
fries.
Fried
It's
chicken.
it's to cook, and so
Yeah.
how do we get it to where it will actually cook? You heat it up. So you should be able to put two and two together that if you
Right. You burn. You burn.
I'm
I know.
sorry, like I have
It's
no sympathy.
redonkulous.
I have no sympathy for
No. You know, this reminds me, I mean, it's not the exact same thing, but I wrote a story today about this mother in, oh my God, what state? Texas, who played chicken with her
I saw
2006
that.
Lincoln um, Navigator. Those are humongous SUVs. And she freaking ran over her 3-year-old kid and killed him and crushed him with the 5,600-pound tire. And I'm like, do we really, I mean, does it go without saying that, hey, parents, you shouldn't drive your, like,
I somebody
ton,
somebody got mad at me. Somebody got mad at me a couple of weeks ago because I was like, there are certain situations where forced sterilization would benefit society, and
yeah.
I defy anyone to make a case for this woman that
And this is the thing, she had 2 kids that were taken away from her in 2013, 2. And then she went on and had 3 more kids. And then she goes ahead and kills one of them through the chicken game. So now she has 4 kids that are in the custody of her family. And in the state of Minnesota, if you have children that are taken away and your parental rights are terminated, any future children that you have, you don't get to keep. Like CPS takes them. So it makes me wonder, like, what happens in Texas?
Texas, they believe that the Bible says to multiply and prosper, so the government don't get involved with what goes on between repopulating the earth and.
Oh, yeah. Because they're too busy spending money on, like, not getting abortions and, you know, protecting their guns.
Here's what we need
and
to do.
Texas has like the worst benefits for like children with disabilities. They have like the worst Medicaid program for people that are poor. Like, I don't know what Texas is doing, and then they execute everyone.
I used to
It's
be,
such a backward state.
speaking of that, I used to be someone that was against the death penalty in all cases. Like, I just thought that, you know, it was one of those things that, you know, you don't want to stoop to that level. However,
Yeah.
I think if we tweak the system a little bit and we started dishing out justice where if you play chicken with your 3-year-old kid, the government gets to play chicken with you, and, you know, if you walk away, great. You know, you get to go home. If not, you know, that's,
You're dead.
I guarantee you no one else will play chicken with their 3-year-old.
Yeah.
A 3-year-old
I
kid.
I was shocked when I read that, or when I like read the police or the district attorney's report. That's where I found it, and I was like, "This is insane! I cannot believe she did this."
It may be just me getting jaded, or, you know, doing this for too long, but I don't even get shocked anymore. Like, I remember, I searching through these stories, I look at a lot of stories like that, or there's the people that their kid had an ear infection, they had the medication to give him, they chose not to, they chose to go holistic, and the kid died. Like, just all of these horrible stories, and most of them happening to kids that have no voice, they don't know any better,
Right.
and
Right.
it's so frequent and so, like,
Yeah.
you get desensitized to it after a while. It's just like
Oh
shootings.
yeah.
You know, there for a while
I
we were
had to,
having
like,
shootings every single day, almost.
I know. I had to take a little bit of a break from, like, I was covering child sexual abuse quite a bit. And I got so desensitized to it that I would like read these articles, and I was like, or like child torture where like parents were arrested for torturing their kids.
Yeah.
And I found myself like reading these articles and being so detached from the outcome, and they're describing like really graphic things.
Yeah.
And then like having my readers being like, "Oh my God." And I'm like, why didn't I have that reaction?
Yeah, it makes you think about like people like I have somebody that's in law enforcement in my family that I'm really close to, and I asked him one time about like when he has like, because he goes to the scene of accidents. Another person in my family is a detective, so he sees homicide
Yeah.
stuff all the time, and I asked them, you know, what is your feeling when you go to these scenes, when you know, walk up to a car, and because to me, there's no way I could do it. Like, that's a job that I my hat's off to people that can do that, that can be around that and it not sort of affect them emotionally at the time. But he was just like, you know, after a while you see so many and you don't even think about it anymore. And I just worry that after a while of seeing that over and over and over again, year after year after year, like what that does to somebody psychologically, because people aren't supposed to see those things, you know, like
No.
the things that happen, people just aren't supposed to. I don't know, but
Oh
like I
God,
said,
it's like me with my son. Like, I'll be on social media and someone will be like, "Oh my God, my kid had to get a shot." And it's like, I cried for my child while they had to have their shot and lab work done. And I remember sitting in the hospital last August while my son was having heart surgery, just writing on YouTube or writing on my blog and like whatever, because it was my son's 4th surgery in the last 9
Sure.
months. And it was just like,
yeah, and you know, like perspective and experience is a big factor in that. You know, if you're not somebody that
Yeah.
has had to go through that, where you had to sort of toughen up really quick and not, you couldn't let yourself get upset over those small details. For somebody that hasn't had to go through that, it's a big culture shock.
Oh yeah.
You know.
I know. I mean, had I not had all of those surgeries before, I probably would have been freaking out about heart surgery, but somehow I wasn't even worried. It was weird. I was very calm.
Here's a hilarious story that I just think is this is my favorite story of the night. So there's this show on Amazon Prime called Good Omens, and it's about a angel and a demon that meet together to sort of stop the apocalypse, I think is the premise of the show. Now, thousands of Christians petition Netflix to cancel Amazon Prime's Good Omen. Now, if you didn't catch that, Netflix has nothing to do with this show.
Because it's on Amazon Prime.
Right. These people are protesting Netflix when it has absolutely zero to do with the show. Here's the thing, listen to this, more than 20,000 Christians have signed a petition calling for the cancellation of Good Omens, the television series adapted from a fantasy novel. Unfortunately, addressing their petition to Netflix when the series is made by Amazon Prime. The 6-part series was released last month, starring David Tennant and as the demon and Michael Sheen as the angel, who collaborate to prevent the coming of the Antichrist and an imminent apocalypse. The Christians marshaled by the Return to Order campaign have said in a 20,000 supporter petition that they think that Good Omens is another step to make Satanism appear normal, light, and acceptable, and mock God's wisdom. God, they complain, is voiced by a woman, Frances McDormand. The Antichrist is a normal kid, and most importantly, this type of video makes light of truth, error, good, and evil, and destroys the barriers of horror that society still has for the devil. Okay, now, number one, this is a TV show, okay?
Yeah.
This is not a documentary.
Christian.
Yeah, this is not a documentary. This is not real. This is a comedy. Number two, you mentioned here that God's voiced by a woman. Listen, number one, I'm going to go with, I believe it was, who was it that said this? Oh, George Carlin. George Carlin said, I know that God is a man if he exists, because there's no way a woman would fuck things up the way that God has done if he exists. I fully agree with that. So there's another thing. Number two, if you can't get the company right that you're sending a petition to,
I know.
There's 20,000 of them. There's 20,000 of them. Oh, anyways, I just thought that was a gem.
Well, maybe it's 20,000 people that don't watch TV. Or watch streaming. Like it could be the fundy Christians. It could be the fundy Christians that don't even they're like, I don't have the internet, but they have a YouTube channel.
Yeah, it's like, where should we send? Hey, Mark, where should we send this petition? Well, let's send it to the public cable people. I think they do Good Omens. Like, at least get the place right. A man sues a brewery after a pink beer promotion made him feel forced to identify as a female.
Oh my God, no!
I'm gonna let this sink in for just a second, and then we're gonna. Thomas Bauer told Brewdog that he believed he'd been the victim of sex discrimination. One of the most underrated subreddits is called "I Am the Asshole," which is actually, I checked that out. It is a really good thing. That's where this story sort of picked up steam. But Thomas Bauer decided to take a craft beer company to court instead of just typing about it to internet strangers. There's never been and may never be a better example of how everyone sucks here. First, some background. And just bear with me. I'm going to read the story just because it's worth it. Last March, Scottish beer maker Brewdog swapped the blue labels on its Punk IPA for pink ones and temporarily rebranded it as Pink IPA because women's rights. The so-called beer for girls was released in advance of International Women's Day and served as Brewdog's attempt to appear interested in gender equality. The Pink IPA is Brewdog's clarion call to close the gender pay gap in the UK and around the world and to expose sexist marketing to women, particularly within the beer industry. This is our overt parody on the failed tone-deaf campaigns that some brands have attempted in order to attract women. So basically they were trolling. Brewdog was still insecure enough about its overt parody that it tagged the Pink IPA announcement with hashtag sarcasm and a facepalm emoji. So this was a big troll that the company was doing. Number one, they weren't actually supporting or trying to push, for a women's exclusive for International Women's Day. They were trolling by saying, all of these companies are doing hashtag, women or whatever, and so they're trolling in that sense. So that's the brewing company side. Now that brings us to Dr. Bauer. For the few weeks that Pink IPA was available, customers who identify as female, Brewdog's words, could get it for 20% less than the cost of a Punk IPA. The 27-year-old Bauer was apparently so into this promotion that he went to the Brewdog bar in Wales and tried to order a 4-pound bottle. The bartender told, now this is a doctor, keep in mind, the bartender told Dr. Bauer that as a dude he wasn't eligible for the 4-pound Pink IPA, but that he could still get a 5-pound Punk IPA. And again, the two brews are literally the same beer, but Dr. Bauer refused, and after a bit of back and forth, he felt forced to identify as a female and then was able to get the drink for 4 pounds. Okay, so this is why this is the greatest story ever.
All of this to save 1 pound.
Right, which is roughly $1.50. So yeah. This guy has an MD or a PhD. Keep that in mind, okay?
Yeah.
This guy that did this. Now, he took 2 beers that are identical, and because there was a marketing campaign where one was $1.50 cheaper, he drove all the way out to the brewery, tried to order the beer, was denied, until he said, okay, I think I identify as a female. Now, there are a lot of things here that make this story go in a direction that I don't think it normally would. If this brewery had originally done this promotion as a way to promote International Women's Day or be genuine and authentic in their promotion, I think Dr. Bauer would be a shit person for doing this. Just to because obviously he was just saying that to get the beer. But because it was a big troll by the company, I think that it was well played in Dr. Bauer's defense. Like, I have to say, well played, Dr. Bauer. That was, I'm with you there. What do you think?
I don't know. Like, I don't get the whole point of trolling, like, why the brewery is trolling women. I don't understand the point of that.
Well, they're making a point that a lot of companies will, like, if there's an occasion coming up, like let's take International Women's Day. A lot of companies will go and rebrand their products for a couple of weeks to center around that. And the brewery is, I think, trying to make the point that this is a dirty ploy to seem like they're promoting equality, but really they just want to increase sales. Like they're taking the stance that these other companies that are doing this aren't genuine. And so there's so many layers to this because they have a point there.
Sure.
I think they have a point there too. So. Well,
I mean, I think there is a point though that the brewery world is extremely sexist and does leave women out. I mean, I think that's fair.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, I mean, I think there are definitely gimmicks in terms of marketing. I mean, hell, like the Susan G. Komen Foundation is one big fat gimmick, you know, like what is that company, that organization hasn't done anything for breast cancer. But, you know, I think,
you know, it's one of those things where like it's, I see both sides in this case, because if you are, let's say you're Nair, right? You know, the company Nair, and you have this, that Nair cream.
By the way, I know absolutely no one that actually uses that.
Well, this is just maybe a really bad example, but it's just the first thing that popped in my mind. But let's say that you want to wax a certain part of your body or whatever. I know that there are guys that also use this product, but there are a minuscule count of the entire like picture, like mostly women, almost by a large majority. So they market it towards women, and I think beer would be sort of the same, because women are usually like either wine or you know, a mixed drink. Don't get me wrong, there are women who do like beer, and I'm not saying that I
love beer.
I mean, but I think men are the overwhelming majority of consumers.
Well, I mean, there's just you're very true.
But I see every side in this case. Okay, one more. The only thing that would make this story better is if it was in Florida, because
but it's in Alabama, so like I feel like Alabama man and Florida man are kind of like interchangeable.
Alabama is taking. I think Alabama's dethroned Florida for the like. So an Alabama man has
some really serious laws this year.
Alabama man allegedly fed his attack squirrel meth to keep it aggressive.
Oh my God.
An attack squirrel housed in an Alabama apartment and fed methamphetamine by its owner made sure it stayed aggressive and was rescued on Monday, officials said. The squirrel was removed from the alleged drug den following a bust. One man identified was arrested at the scene. He was the caretaker of the squirrel. The sheriff's office said that prior to the drug raid, officials were told that Paul kept an attack squirrel in his home. It's illegal in Alabama to have a pet squirrel. Officials found the squirrel and released it into the wild per recommendations from Alabama's Department of Conservation. Do you think that squirrel is going to be like on the street corner, like doing this, going, "Hey man, you know where I can get some?"
That poor squirrel. He's a meth head now.
Yeah. I didn't want to get a copyright strike just because of how YouTube's being, but if you get a chance, go and Google it and look at this video of this attack squirrel. It is like, if I want you to close your eyes and imagine a squirrel on meth, and this is exactly what you get. Wow.
You know, there's probably a good reason why squirrels, you shouldn't have them as pets, because they have so many nasty diseases, and then you're gonna put this, and they're like vicious. I have like this massive phobia of squirrels. I have to admit, when I was in college, I went to the University of Minnesota, and it's a campus that is like over 150 years old. And it is so filled with humongously beautiful oak and like elm trees. And as a result, it's filled with squirrels. And because it's a campus where people dump food and everything, the squirrels are super aggressive. And I would seriously be walking to class and the squirrels would be like, you know, and I would be so scared. I would think they were going to attack me. So I'm like massively phobic of squirrels. And I can't imagine seeing one on meth.
Well, I just want to, since you're massively afraid of squirrels, like I have to show you. Hold on. Let me put this on the screen, because this will make your day. Okay. All right. Let me reposition this. Have you seen the video where the squirrels meet outside of a ice cream parlor every day and get their daily dose of ice cream?
Love ice cream, right? There is a UW evening's big story.
Now I want you to look at this, Katie.
Twice a day, putter or putt-putt gets her dose of sweetness.
Look at this.
Papa, you ready?
Flavor of choice,
Vanilla or we also have sugar
Oh.
ice cream.
Scott and Pam Martin says putter.
Okay, I like that, Squirrel.
Look at that.
Down and just got friendly with customers and ultimately
Okay, if my son found that video, he would watch that over and over and over again.
That's the funniest thing ever. Like, he eats ice cream every single...
Like on a cone. That is so funny.
I'm not sure.
Shut up, Alexa.
Round 2 later.
So yeah, I've always been like, I wanted to be a, what was I gonna say? I like raccoons. Like, I've always wanted to have a pet raccoon, but I know that they're, no some way. Okay, so, I'm going to shut up here in just a second. Let Katie take us through probably one of the wildest and
Yes.
this story is just insane. And
Yes, so many layers.
Yes.
Massive layers.
yes, and the things that you're gonna the things you're gonna see here, and Katie, as you go through, I'll be cycling through like the pictures of the I've got the pictures of all the players. They'll pop up right here on the screen as we sort of...
I don't know all of their names, but I know, like, okay, the one picture, the first woman, that's Laura Salzman.
Mm-hmm.
And
I've got a little bio about him too. So,
Okay.
but let's start from the beginning.
Okay, so let me introduce you to Vanguard.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, that's what he says his name is. But he's really just this dweeby guy who never had a chance with women, and his name is Keith Ranieri. He's a failed MLM person. He tried to start this like MLM business in like the 80s where he was selling like computer stuff to people. And the company did pretty well, but it ended up actually tanking after it got found out that it was a pyramid scheme. So going on that sort of pyramid scheme, I don't know, like learning model.
Just real quick, did you ever get caught up in one of those?
Yes.
So
yes.
did I. So did I. I got suckered in. I did Cutco. You know what that is?
I got sucked into doTERRA, the essential oils. So
knives for me, selling knives.
Oh gosh. So taking what he learned from that, he decided that instead he was going to sort of enter into the self-help world, and he developed this product, this curriculum with another woman named, I believe, Laura Salzman, who is a businesswoman, but she also has like a background where she understands stuff about psychology. And so between Nancy Salzman, sorry. Between Nancy and Keith Ranieri, that's his actual name, they developed this curriculum and they created this program, which they later, it was named one thing in the beginning, but it eventually turned into NXIVM, which is NXIVM. And I don't know.
Which doesn't spell NXIVM.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I mean, this guy's supposed to be brilliant. Like,
I know, yeah. So here's the thing is he says that he has like a really, really, really like 200 IQ. He learned to play massive amounts of piano by the age of 12. He graduated high school early. He went to college. He did all of these amazing things. He spoke fluently, but I can't remember, like something ridiculous with speaking. Like he was reading full books by the age of like 4. I mean, like he's just very, he's an accomplished pianist, like a award-winning pianist. So he's, if you go, well, the NXIVM website's gone, but when it used to be up because it's now defunct, but it was quite like it was like ridiculous. Anyway,
it's sort of like, you tell me what you think about this, but I compared it a lot to Scientology. There were a lot of aspects of it that were just like Scientology. How that
I would say it's like Scientology or Landmark. forum where people would have to come in and they'd go to these seminars and they would do these like little learning things and they would, help them get through different aspects of their lives. And, he had a lot of his language that he would use, as, he would always talk about authenticity. Like that was his big thing, was you to help you find and you need to be your most authentic self. And he kind of speaks a lot of word salad, psychological word salad, basically. So it started off kind of as this self-help thing, but then it sort of ended up morphing into this really twisted, crazy cult. And he was involved with this woman for a long, long time. And she left him, I believe, in 2011 or 2012. And after that relationship dissolved, he sort of developed this master weird plan where he was going to develop a secret sorority designed around female empowerment. That was how it was promoted. And it's called DOS, or DOS, which is a Latin word, which I can't remember what it stands for. It's the Latin word for master slave. And what it was he used Allison Mack from
yes,
freaking what's that show?
Smallville.
Chloe from Smallville, and he and his crew like spent a ton of money recruiting her into the organization. I think around 2010 or 2012. I can't remember exact dates. It's been a while since I've covered this story, but they really wooed her and pulled her in, and she was very naive, and she was like kind of at that place where she was sort of seeking something greater than just acting. And so she got really pulled in. She fell for it. And she fell for it so hard that she became his co-conspirator and his number one in recruiting women into this DOS. So basically what he ended up doing was he designed it that he would be at the top and he was going to create a pyramid, again, with the pyramid scheme. And he was going to have 8 first-level slaves. So these women were on the first ring, and they were all like directly up to him.
Let me just stop you for a second. Is there literally no end to people's stupidity? Like, is it literally a real thing where if I say, you know what, I'm not getting as laid often as I think that I should. Well, what are you gonna do about it? Are you gonna improve yourself? Go to the gym more often? Work on your personality? No. I think what I'll do is set up a cult, and I'll have tiers. And on the first tier, I'll have 8 slaves. And people go, no, I can get behind that.
So what he ended up doing is he had women within his group that he was having sexual relationships with, and he used his influence within NXIVM. And at this point, when all of this was developed, he, mind you, had thousands and thousands and thousands of followers. And so these were like very dedicated, very brainwashed women, right? And Allison Mack was one of them, and she was probably one of the most closest to him in terms of their relationship. And she was like very enamored with him. They were in an intimate relationship, and
she's just as guilty as him.
Just as guilty as him, yes. But he's actually the mastermind, and she did end up taking a plea deal. But so what he ended up doing is he recruits these 8 women, and he sort of it starts out like, okay, what we're going to do is you guys each have to recruit people below you, right? And then they recruit people below them. But,
just like Amway.
Right. But what they do is, so he gets the 8 women, and those women are forced to basically strip naked and take photos or tell secrets and have them taped, and it's called collateral. And so if they are going to leave the group, what they end up doing is they blackmail them with the collateral.
I think that I cannot for the life of me understand anyone being this stupid, because there's no other word for it. This is okay, I know when you're out somewhere, and let's say you're at a gas station, right? And you're going into the gas station, and you get approached by someone.
Yeah.
When you hear hey man, a sales pitch is coming. Like my car broke
Right.
down. I need this. Like you instantaneously know that somebody's going to try to either get you to give them money or they'll sell something. When people go door to door with Amway and stuff, you can tell by the way that they first start to talk to you that they're about to pitch you a pyramid scheme. How do
Right.
you initiate a conversation where it's like,
So
I've been a part of this life changing it's a multi-slave scheme. You interested in, like, how do you have that conversation?
Well, when the 8 women were like brought in and they had their collateral, they didn't tell people what they were actually bringing them into. And so what Allison Mack did was she would groom people, and she would like hold like coffee events or have parties in New York. She was in, they have a compound that's now actually going to be going to the state where the prosecutors will sell because of they did so much theft in this ring too. There's so many crimes that took place in here, but she would go down to New York City, into Brooklyn. She would have these like informal events. And because she was from Smallville, her celebrity was used as a way to draw people in, but it was never promoted as like this sex thing.
Yeah.
It was always promoted as like, let's learn and become like
Maybe
more
not.
powerful women.
Maybe not, but I still have no sympathy for them, because if you come to me and say, you know what, Kyle, I want to empower gay people, but before we can do that, I need you to strip naked, take photos of yourself, and then tell me any secrets that could like really, really be embarrassing to you. I'm gonna be like, hey, get fucked. You know what I mean? Like, but
the problem is that the people. So the issue is that after their first line, they brought in women that were already very much entrenched. So one of the women that actually broke the story, she's in Vancouver, and she was running sort of their Vancouver chapter, and I can't remember what her name is. She was featured.
Claire?
No, she's
Kathy?
not in the interview. No, she was the one that actually was like interviewed by the New York Times that blew up this entire story to begin with.
Oh. I don't think I have her.
Let me find. She's not. She was an actress. Hold on.
And that's another thing too. Like they like people that have a good career, established people in Hollywood, fall for this shit, and not only fall for it, they are complicit in making sure that there are a fresh supply of girls to.
Sarah Edmondson. That's her name.
Okay.
So Sara was running the sort of the Vancouver, Canada chapter, and that's where a lot of them were for some period of time, because for a while Vancouver had these like low prices for filming, and they were doing a lot of filming at the time. So they recruited in a lot of, and like got a lot of people in through, actors and actresses, and a lot of them are lost and they're looking for some direction and what this is going to tell them. But I mean, Sara, even her description of it is more like she's married and she got like sucked into this.
Yeah.
And she had zero idea what was happening. Like they picked her up in the middle of the night. They brought her blindfolded to a house, which was pitch black with like lights, like just candles lit. And they told them that they were going to do a ceremony of like female empowerment. And then they cauterized on her pubic bone the initials of Keith and Ranieri mixed with Allison Mack.
Right here on your shoulder.
And yeah. And then after the cauterization, they said it was like a tattoo, but more whatever. And that by doing this, you would trust them more. And, they're using all of this lingo. And, she even said like an interview, she was interviewed by 2020. She did an interview with the New York Times. I mean, she's been kind of all over the place. She was even featured on Discovery, or A&E did a feature, like a whole program about it. And, she was so into like the curriculum that I think at the time she just felt like, oh my God, they're picking me, that kind of thing. And you have to remember that his influence was so big, and they're truly brainwashed. And so, like, yes, they were suckers for getting in, but I don't think it's like, you can't really, the people that are that were brought into this, I don't think that you can really blame them, because by the time they got in, they were like, they didn't even know what they were getting into.
This may be the one time ever that I have to disagree with you. I blame them absolutely, and it may be just because, like I said earlier, I'm jaded and I've seen this too many times. But these are smart. These are smart people. These are people that that have established careers, that that okay, let's say that the curriculum thing is 100% true. Like, she was digging the curriculum or whatever. There's a point where you can go, you know what, this curriculum is really helping me. But that whole laying up on a table where you're gonna brand my pubic bone, I'm gonna stop there.
But they didn't really. Yeah, I mean, they didn't really know what was going on. I mean, yes. I mean, she even said in interviews, like, she was like, what the F? Like, I need to get out of here.
But she didn't. She got on the table.
But she couldn't. Where's she going to go? They took her there.
So,
that
I would walk out. It wouldn't matter to me.
I know.
Like,
I know.
where I was. I would be out of there and be like,
you need to spend some time on the Cult Institute and understand, like, the brainwashing that goes into all of this and all of the psychological, like, manipulation that happens with this kind of stuff.
It could be.
But
I have to admit a bias. It could very well be that I am just so sick and tired of these stories that come out every single week about some. Look at this guy. Some creepy looking weasel that narcissistic that just says, you know what? I think that people should constantly be on my dick. And I'm going to decree that and make it happen. And I'm so sick and tired of people actually doing it. There are people in the compounds of the LDS Church with Warren Jeffries.
Warren Jeffs.
Yeah, Warren Jeffs, who actively gave their daughters.
Oh yeah.
Like said, yes, you have to go have sex with. He's the prophet. Like they.
Well, yeah, and so in NXIVM world, he's the prophet, you know. So for the most like religious followers, I know I don't get it either, Kyle, but I also have read enough about like the psychological like brainwashing and sort of grooming that goes in with this, that I think even the smartest people can fall for it. And I think it's naive for us to say that it can't happen to anyone. I mean, you're
right. You're right, and it's proven by Jonestown when you can convince. Nearly 900 people to either kill their children or to kill themselves because you know I think that's evident. I'm being mostly facetious just because I'm frustrated and I don't understand it.
This story is just, but like a lot of the stuff was like luring people in under false pretenses, and then by the time they get there, they don't really know what's going on, and then they've been told this is what you have to do, and then they're like, you know, Sara was like friends with Allison, and so she just really trusted her, you know, and it's like, if you're very good friends with someone, you don't expect your friends to kind of like hang you out to dry. You sort of trust the process, and they used those relationships and that manipulation, and then they took the collateral, and so after they take the collateral, this is where it gets crazy. Let's like not even get stuck
before you
on,
move
like,
on. Before you move on, though, let me just make this one last point. What I don't understand, maybe you can shed some light on this situation, is that in other cults there is a religious aspect of it. There's a promise that the next life will be better. There's a promise that you will be in the favor of God. Like, what was the why did people follow this nut job? Like, he wasn't saying that, you know, in the next life, like what was what was the benefit?
He was providing their authentic selves.
Oh, get
and to like a higher level of being, and you know, like he had the answers for everything. But I never really understood what they actually taught, because all of it sounded like gobbledygook to me, you know. But a lot of those like self-help groups, like Scientology, which is the same thing. Like, would you get into Scientology if you really knew at the end that you would find out that you were like a alien in your body that was a Thetan?
Well,
you know,
Scientology pisses me off more than anything. That's the one group of people that I just like. I have zero sympathy for, because it was started by a guy who is a writer and who wrote science fiction and who wrote about a general alien that put us in a volcano that exploded us. If you fall for that, I'm sorry.
I know,
but
like,
you
I
are
can't
you
even
are
believe,
so.
like, you're literally falling for someone that was like a science fiction writer, literally, like, yeah. So, anyways, they get the branding done, and then what happens is these women end up becoming his harem, and so the first line slaves,
Oh, I
like
hate this
Allison,
story. God damn it, I hate this story.
the first line slaves like Allison basically like force her slaves, and they put them on these very strict, like, low calorie diets, because not only is he creepy as fuck, but he's also a pedophile, and he rapes young girls. And because he is a pedophile, he likes the way that prepubescent girls look. And so he puts the girls on 500 a day calorie diets. They get down to skin and bones, have very little cleavage. They basically look like 12-year-old girls. And he uses his influence and power to also have mothers bring their daughters, and he repeatedly rapes multiple young girls along with these women. And the rapes of the young girls happen before the even DOS stuff happens.
I'm getting
But then
pissed
during
off.
the, yeah,
getting
and then
pissed
during the DOS stuff, he's also, these women go on these really strict diets. They have to answer their phones at all time. If they don't answer their phones, they get in trouble. They'll get beaten. They routinely would take, like, one woman testified, for instance, that she was brought, I wrote about this actually, I wrote about this last fall, because after his arrest, they were asking for a bond for him to get out of jail, and they brought new charges against him to have, like, a no bond case, a no bail case. And it was due to this testimony of this woman who basically said that she was taken from Mexico by her parents up to Albany, New York. And she was brought there with a friend and her sister. And Keith, at the time, she was like 18, but her younger sister, I think, was 12 or 13. He actually ended up in a sexual relationship with all three of the girls. And her sister was the young girl that they ended up bringing in and charging him with child sexual abuse. So that was they added that charge this spring. So it was her sister that he was doing this to, but she was one of many young girls that were raped by him.
Oh,
but
what?
Hold on, let me finish. During this time, this is the craziest story. She tells Keith that she is having feelings for someone else that's not him, and she's not attracted to him to begin with because she's freaking 18 years old and he's like in his 50s. So what does he do? He locks her in a fucking room for 2 years. He takes her passport. He takes all of her, like, identifications, and she has to sit in a room and just think and read the curriculum over and over and over again. So she stops having feelings for this man and will, like, come back to him. And after 2 years, and she doesn't get let out, she's barely given food, like, the doors are guarded, like, after 2 years of being locked in there, she finally escapes, and they fucking dump her at the border in Mexico with no identification information at all.
Who dumps her?
Nothing.
Who dumps her at the border?
Her father, and then, like, someone else. They dump her there.
Is this real life? Like, does this shit really happen?
Yeah.
Isn't
it crazy?
And this is exactly why I changed my stance on the death penalty, because I think that people like this absolutely deserve to be put down, like the animals that they are. But I still can't wrap my mind around, or what would be my question in this. Like, if I was anyone around him, he'd be like, well, as the Vanguard, I have decreed that I will increase my harem to 16 women, and I'd just be back.
Oh yeah,
I'll be back there going, or
and they
what?
were at
Like,
yeah.
Or what though? Like you're not a prophet. Like, you don't have an ear to God, so that you can send me to hell. What are you going to do?
So they used the money that they made from all of these things, and then they used all of their resources. And then Claire and her sister Bronfman, they're like the heirs of the Seagram's liquor, like $100 billion company, whatever. They use they use the trust funds of these girls to actually like ruin people and throw like vicious lawsuits. They go and steal identities of people. They ruin people's credits. They ruin people's marriages. They send like, they blackmail them. There's a man named Frank who has been trying to expose them for like over a decade, and they bankrupted him because he started various like investigations against the like nefarious things that Keith Ranieri was doing. Like he was exposing things about Keith in terms of like the child sexual abuse, like way before Sarah Edmondson said a word. And so they basically filed all of these federal lawsuits against him, and they got him convicted of crime. They had charges brought against him because of how they framed him. Like,
Wait, why didn't he get, like, why didn't it come out in those proceedings or whatever, the shit that Keith was doing?
It did. That was all, this shit was part of the trial. This is why he had so many racketeering charges, because he was like ruining people's lives. He stole a woman's identity after she died, and he took out like $300,000 of debt, and he used that to fund various avenues of his like of his system. And then they would take money that they made through like illegal purposes and put them into bank accounts assigned from dead people, and they would open up dead people's bank accounts to like funnel money within the system. So there was money laundering, there was racketeering.
Okay, I have a solution here. I have a genuine solution to this problem. We need to get that meth squirrel from Alabama. We need to take Keith into surgery and implant an 8-ball of meth into his chest, and let the meth squirrel lock them in a room and let the meth squirrel get his fix.
I know. So yeah, it's eventually what happens is like, and there's this, another woman testified. This was another really horrific thing about it, is they drove her out to a wooded like location, blindfolded her. They brought her into a cabin, and while she was in the cabin, they told her to get on a table, completely disrobe her, and then while Keith is like walking circles around her, like reciting shit from NXIVM, someone who she has no idea is performing oral sex on her against her, like with no like complete like sexual assault. And he would like and he would repeatedly rape these women, and yeah, it's
I'm trying my best. I'm trying my best to actively find, like, I know a lot of these women were duped in a way that they didn't foresee, but with religious cults, I don't agree with it, but I at least understand that these people genuinely feel that their eternal soul is on the line, that that God is going to punish them if they do anything against, the prophet. This dipshit was nothing like that. He was a guy that was a pyramid schemer, that he called himself the Vanguard, and he just said, you know what, this is how I want things. And people went, okay, all right.
Well, they had a curriculum, and they had like, he had the answers for them, and they bought into that curriculum. And, it was a lot like how Scientology is, where they have the different courses that you have to take and that kind of stuff.
Do we have like access to those? Huh? Do we have access to the courses?
They're like, let me see if I can find them.
I would be interested to see that. And while you're doing that, I'm just going to go through really fast and give bullet points on the people that you see on the screen. Obviously, that's Keith. The next person is Nancy Salzman. She was the co-founder of NXIVM,
she wrote most of the curriculum.
Yeah, she was the second in command that served as president of the organization. She was known as the prefect. What is with these fucking names that they're giving you? Like,
I know.
So prosecutors said that Salzman took part in editing videos of classes that she had taught before turning them over. The next girl, obviously, is Allison Mack, who is from Smallville. She was also a really big player in this. The next person is Lauren Salzman. She is the daughter of the second in command, Nancy Salzman. She's been on the executive board for 20 years. The 42-year-old testified in court that she joined DOS in 2017.
Yeah, Laura. That's Laura, right?
This is this is Lauren.
Lauren is, I think, is Nancy's daughter.
Yeah, yeah, and she pled guilty in federal court to charges of racketeering and conspiracy. The next person is going to be Claire Bronfman. She is the heiress to the Seagram liquor. I'm never drinking Seagram ginger ale ever again at a bar.
Yeah.
Ever again.
She
Because
completely, like, they bankrupted their, like, inheritance.
good.
It's insane.
Good. Good. I'm glad that she lost all of that money. She doesn't need
Yeah.
it if she's gonna, get caught up. She pled guilty in April to concealing and harboring undocumented immigrants for financial gain and fraudulent use of identification. She faces 27 months, and agreed to pay $6 million in forfeiture to the government. Kathy Russell is the bookkeeper. Obviously, she's going to get taken down. She's accused of cooking.
She's the one that stole all the identities.
Yeah, the books. And then this is the brand that a lot of the women got. And one woman I heard, she described it as a searing. She said it was worse than childbirth. She said it was a 30-minute process where two people had to hold them down. And the entire time I'm still sitting here going, why didn't you say I'm not getting on the table? Like why did you get on the table?
I know. That's who you're saying did that. That's Sara Edmondson who said that. So she's the one that actually, so Sara is actually kind of the hero in all of this because she was the one that came forward. She contacted the New York Times. She told them what was going on. She wanted help to get out. And through the expose that the New York Times did, which if you ever want a very comprehensive background about this cult, the New York Times article that includes and features Sara Edmondson is amazingly, it's amazing journalism. It broke this case wide open. It resulted in Keith being arrested. So when we sometimes think that journalists can't get shit done, they really can. But let me tell you about you said you wanted to know about the beliefs. Mm-hmm. So it says that they have the NXIVM classes rank was signified with colored sashes, not unlike the belts used in martial arts. They featured a 12-point mission statement recited by participants in which they pledged to purge themselves of all parasites and envy-based habits, to enroll others in such courses, and to ethically control as much of the money, wealth, and resources of the world as possible within my success plan. Photographs of Vanguard and Prefect were displayed during classes, and classes concluded with participants showing gratitude to the two. They conducted intensive classes that ran 12 hours a day for 16 days. The price was $7,500. They were divided into modules. In one module, they did relationship sourcing. They were instructed to explore the benefits they could receive in the events of a partner's sudden death. Another module, Dracula and his goals, reportedly discussed psychopaths and their followers. Other modules included Best People, Perfect World, and Heroic Struggle. They featured a practice termed exploration of meaning that involved a senior member questioning a member as they delve into their childhood memories. They taught that some people are called suppressives, that appease the crowd of obnoxious. So they're basically ripping off shit from Scientology.
Yes. And people are paying $7,500 for this shit.
People who irrevocably turned against Ranieri were said to have undergone the fall, and they were labeled, in the words of the former member, Luciferian, lost people for whom bad feels good and good feels bad.
Oh my God.
They organized Vanguard Week, an annual celebration for his birthday. They had several related organizations called Genus, which was the society aimed at women, while the Society of Protectors was aimed at men. And then there was a third acronym, DOS, which was Dominus Obsequious Sororium, a Latin phrase that reportedly translates to master over slave women. And then members in the inner circle were taught that in the past lives they were high-ranking Nazis.
God, kill me
Barbara
now. Please take me now.
Barbara Bonsi was reportedly the reincarnation of Holocaust architect Reinhard Heydrich, while Nancy Salzman was supposed to be the reincarnation of Hitler, and Ranieri reported he had been a leader of anti-Nazi partisans.
Okay, I have a test that I want to put out there. I've been thinking about this for a while, and as people know, I have been accused many times of being a discount garden gnome, and I'm going to say for the record that is true. I'm able to admit that. Now, there are other discount garden gnomes out there, and we're not going to hide anymore. So I rally you, if you are part of the discount garden gnome cult, we're not hiding anymore, and I want you to join me. And this is the story. Back in the beginning of time, there was an elephant that got high with a methed out squirrel and decided to create people. And some of those people he created shorter than others and made to look like gnomes. And he sprinkled magic fairy dust. You'll get into that. I first need $1,900 so that you can get the crash course.
And I'm the fairy dust fairy that sprinkles the dust.
Here's the thing, though. You laugh now because it's how ridiculous it is. But people fell for that in this situation.
I know.
People said, you know what? I always thought there was an elephant too.
Right, I know.
I hate humanity now.
But suppressives
I'm so pissed off.
Suppressives is totally from Scientology, and purging of parasites and evil-based habits.
Drink turpentine.
Yeah. Ethically control as much of the money, wealth, and resources of the world as possible with my success plan, whatever that means.
Oh man, I
know.
I just I leave these sort of shows going. I wish that I could go back in time before I was deep into YouTube and before I knew all of this. There are people that I'm so jealous of out there that are oblivious to any of this shit going on. They go about their lives. They go out for tapas and drinks in the afternoon, and they talk about what happened on RuPaul's Drag Race, and they don't say, "Hey, you heard about that new multi-level marketing scheme where people are slaves now?" And this is real. This is not a joke. And
yeah, I have been absolutely obsessed with this story since it broke. I have covered it extensively on my blog. And it's funny because when you mentioned that you wanted to do this show tonight, I have so many people that wanted to talk about this. And I was just like,
yeah. Well, he's recently been in the news because he was found guilty.
Yes. So, yeah. So basically what happens is they arrest him but what happened was, so the New York Times story blew it wide open. He and the girls flee to Mexico because he actually has a group of Mexican people. Oh, and another part of this was that through their work, he had plans to overtake the world. That was his plan. I'm
done. I can't do this shit anymore. I'm not doing this shit anymore.
He was going to take over Mexico and become the Mexican government, and then through that, they were going to take over the entire world.
I mean, and you people think that there's a God out there that sits around going, "Oh, this is fantastic." Look at him. Look at this little cute guy trying to take over.
So they harbor him in Mexico, and he gets picked up while he's in the middle of some sort, getting ready for some threesome action. And the emaciated women are there at this place with him, and they are all chasing the cops down the road after they arrest him. And then subsequently, after his arrest, then Allison Mack is arrested, and that's really kind of what blew this whole thing up, because it's Chloe from Smallville.
She's just as bad as him. I don't think she should get any favors. She's just as horrible a human being as...
She was probably one of the most brutal, vindictive. She beat the women. She tortured the women. She was extremely jealous and volatile. She wanted Keith all to herself. And yeah, like the women described the torture that she put them through on the stand.
I hate society.
And she hides behind this, like, you know, I'm so cute, I'm from Smallville.
Well, you're gonna go to a not so Smallville place where it's not gonna be. And I hope this for like, has he been sentenced yet? Oh, that was my next question.
Oh, he has not. He was just so his trial was 6 weeks, and it actually concluded last Friday with a guilty verdict. He was convicted on all charges, and he faces up to life in prison without a possibility of parole. So, and he probably will get life in prison, I'm guessing. They did not, like the judge during this trial was very adamant that he never get out on bail because he is such a detriment to society, and he was trying to influence and intimidate people even from jail. So I don't see the judge in this case being kind or giving him any at all, like,
nor should he.
Lenient.
If I couldn't be a judge either. I'd be like, deputy, take this man out back and just end it now.
Yeah.
Just put him down.
And a lot of the women that are like involved in this, that were his like main points, they are getting essentially slaps on the fucking wrist. What did you say, Allison? What was her plea deal?
I don't think that she didn't have a plea deal. It didn't say what she got sentenced for. It just said that she had pled to. Hold on, I'll pull it up. She pled guilty to racketeering and conspiracy, and relating to her role in the sex trafficking in August. She faces up to 40 years in prison, so she hasn't been sentenced yet either.
Yeah, she'll probably go for a really long time too.
Yeah, which is good. Like all these people suck.
I think what they did ultimately was they cut these girls a deal because they really wanted to get Keith behind forever. And so they ended up working a lot with these women to get as much shit on him as possible.
I understand that. But like there are certain cases in many aspects that I think that you should, like, because I made a plea deal when I was sentenced, and the judge refused it. You know what I mean? So that can happen.
Yeah.
You know, they can get a deal, and if I was the judge, I'd be like, well, I see that you've gotten you've got a plea deal here for 3 years and probation. Well, fuck you, that's not happening. You're going for a decade, and
right.
You know,
yeah, because ultimately it can come down to the judge. I mean, but if they go too far, if they deviate too far off of it, then they can actually get in trouble, and you can get appeals and all that bullshit. So I would guess that, yeah. I mean, I would expect Allison to get a pretty long sentence. I would also expect Nancy. What was Nancy Salzman?
Nancy pled guilty to editing videos of NXIVM classes she had taught before turning them in as part of a lawsuit against the organization. She is believed to have removed materials that would have supported some of the lawsuit's claims. So she's actually, and she pled guilty to racketeering conspiracy. Racketeering.
Yeah, racketeering and conspiracy charges are they're like massive sentences.
Sure.
Like even just a single charge.
Where are the sex crime charges though?
He got convicted of child.
I mean, for them, the women.
Oh yeah, they had them. Actually, Allison Mack had multiple for human trafficking, sex trafficking, and rape, but they dropped all of those for the racketeering. And then part of his conviction included that there was the rape of the young girl.
The criminal
there's
system.
one girl, this is really sad. One girl actually came out years ago and said that he raped her over 60 times while she was between the ages of 12 and 16 years old, and she ended up committing suicide.
Well, that should be a murder charge too.
Yeah.
I know that would never stick, but still, I would throw everything at them. The thing is, they should not have dropped those sex charges because when she gets out of prison, she should have to report
Be a sex offender.
as a sex offender,
Yeah.
and have her, like, and to what end did she get? She was a successful actress on a really popular show, and because some douchebag said, "I feel like I deserve sex slaves," and she said, "I too feel like you deserve sex slaves." She throws all
Have
that.
you seen her videos on YouTube? She actually had a YouTube channel.
No.
Oh my God. Watch the videos. It's creepy. She is obsessed with him, and the way that she looks at him, she's like,
I don't get it. I mean, I don't.
Oh.
I really don't. To each their own. But like me, if there's one positive light in all of this, you walk away from these streams going, you know what? It can get bad, but it could also be a hell of a lot worse.
yeah.
Like, I'm not sitting here with a whiteboard each night going, all right, I got Janet, slave position 1. Terry, we'll bump her up to 2. Let's see if we can, you know what I mean? Like,
Right. Right.
fuck people. Anyways,
I know.
any last minute, I don't know what in the world we could add to that whole thing, but is there
I
anything?
have a bunch of articles on my column on Pathios if you want a deeper dive, including there's an article about the 12-year-old about the woman that was locked in the closet for 2 years. There's a whole article about a group of underage Mexican girls that he brought in to Albany, New York to rape and to groom. I did a ton of stories on Allison Maxwell, so including the spinal sentencing. So
Very cool.
if you want to check out my column on Pathios, I have if you go to my archives, you just have to click on NXIVM and you can find all of them there.
And make sure that you do, because Kay does a really good job, and the other articles too are really interesting. It stems a lot like some of the things we do for Nonsense News. Like we're talking about the woman that played chicken with their kid. Really,
I wrote that.
Yeah, really shocking things. People were wanting to know what some of the upcoming shows for this week are going to be, so I'm going to run through those. Online vigilante justice. There's a big rise in this now, which I find fascinating. Anxiety war is the biggest one that comes to mind, but I've reached out to I believe it's they call it pedopulchers, but basically what these people do is they pose as underage kids on dating apps, Kick, Grindr, that sort of thing, and they arrange meetups, and then they film the meetup. Sort of like
NBC did an article on this. It's freaking nuts, though.
Yeah.
They've driven people to commit suicide.
Yeah.
And and some of these people, they haven't even done anything.
Yeah.
Well,
I understand that. No one would ever want to put somebody on there that that didn't do it. And for the ones that when I was looking into this, because they're going to come up on Thursday, but this channel does a really good job of logging all of the chats and then detailing they meet at the meetup points, they bring certain things, and in those cases, I think that while it's dangerous what they're doing, they're also doing something that I think is important, because
it fucks up the investigations, though.
Well, here's the thing, though. Investigations that wouldn't normally be going on, and that's where I think that's where I'm torn and I have to side with them, because in a lot of these cases, the police will come out and say, there can be tainted evidence, blah blah blah. But
they're not following the protocols, and when the stings are done
Yeah.
by the police, they're done in a way so to
I
make
agree.
sure that all of it is.
I agree 100%. But if they weren't bringing light to it from the beginning, these investigations wouldn't be going on. And my thing is, I'm always going to side with what's going to cause the least amount of harm to kids. So if it gets murky with the police and a vigilante that are, making these interactions, but it gets somebody that could potentially have harmed a kid off the streets and they have to deal with it, in the courts or whatever, he's at least on blast. Where
Yeah, I don't like it at all. But I'll be interested to watch it.
Yeah, sure.
I just the reporter I work with at NBC, she covered the story and she spent months with these people, and they're freaking nuts. Some of them beat the crap out of these guys.
Yes.
Some of them videotape them and live stream it. It's really not okay.
And those I absolutely condemn and disagree with.
Yeah.
And that's why I was very careful with the ones that I wanted to sort of bring on. These are just people that meet them in public to establish that they had the intention to, come there to meet someone that's underage, and then they break the contact. There's no sort of confrontation where they're trying to get a provocation or whatever. They're just making sure that connection is. But yes, I have seen channels where they lure someone in and then they beat them up.
Yeah, there was a group that Brandy was following that they literally were they would lure them in and beat the crap out of them.
Right. Cynthia Schumann, who is the New York Times dubbed her the Martha Stewart of cannabis, will also be with us. She has a fascinating story, so I'm looking forward to that. I also have a psychic OBGYN. That's going to be with me and KC, but yes, I'll let that sink in. There is an OBGYN that tapped into her psychic abilities and is able to heal people not only physically but spiritually.
Quackery.
Yeah. And then on Friday, there's a gentleman that's going to be joining us to give a report from Iran. Things are escalating and heating up with that, and he's in the middle of it over there, so we're actually going to be joined by him from Iran. And last but not least,
they just announced sanctions against Iran today.
Yeah, it's heating up like big time. And then the last thing that we're going to talk about this week is the right to be forgotten. So do you know what that is, Katie?
Mm-mm.
Huh?
No.
Oh, that's a Google now and Facebook and all that wants to know what you want to do when you die, like what happens to your account. So, do you have the right to have all of your information wiped, or are you forced to? Is that a record that's forced to be kept? Interesting question.
Yeah, it is.
Let me read these super chats and then we will call it a night. RJ says, "Hi Vandy." Hi Vandy. RJ gonna get my dad a sanction for his birthday. Excited. Very cool. Cameron Jones left a super chat with no message. Blue Soul Jim says, "Need a time machine and prevent Allison Mack from joining NXIVM." And it's not it's NXIVM. Like, how did he convince people to pronounce it NXIVM?
I don't know.
NXIVM. But yeah, good point.
I don't know. It makes literally no sense to me.
Yeah. Yuhan Roderick says, "Very good podcast.com/RNRaw," which is a very good podcast. You should definitely check that out. He also asked, what software do you use for animations? Depends on which animations you're referring to. I use After Effects for intro videos and outro videos. As far as the graphics that are over here, I use Photoshop or Pixelmator. And it really just depends on which animation you're talking about. Yuhan Roderick says, "Also need more non-sec, just saying." You will be getting it, I promise you. Like I said, last week I was dead to the world, but I'm feeling a lot better, and so we will be on our regularly scheduled schedule now. David Campbell, Kyle, clean that damn monitor behind you. It looks like you've been licking it. Great show. I actually have. Whenever I get done with shows, I watch Cinnamon Toast Crunch videos, and that's how I cope with some of the things that we talk about on here.
I had 2 bowls of Cinnamon Toast Crunch today.
You know what's funny though? I know it does look like that, but actually, this is me wiping it down with, where's this stuff at? I tried this stuff, which I am convinced, like I ordered it off of Amazon, and it's supposed to leave like streak free or whatever, and it says it's an anti-run, anti-static screen cleaning gel. Now I got I got skeptical after it worked just like water, and I squirted it, and it is fucking water.
That's all it is?
It is fucking water. Yes. Like,
Oh, man.
this is not a gel. This is not anything. Like, it tastes like it is water. But yes, I will get to cleaning and stop licking my screen. Okay, Katie. Anything else you want to say before we say goodnight?
Make sure you check me out on Twitter at WOA Crystal Ball. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, come check me out. I cover a lot of different topics like what we've done today. And if you like some celebrity gossip and it like me trashing influencers, I also do that too.
Yeah. And for the rest of you, just be happy with your normal, boring lives. Don't go looking
Yes.
for curriculum in places. Don't go in multi-level marketing. Sit at home, play Angry Birds, and be glad that you don't have those marks and brands because
I know.
you thought that this guy was I almost said the best thing since sliced bread, but I'm so glad I didn't use that pun, and I'm actually just going to close now before I start using even stupider ones. So we'll be back tomorrow at 9, and see you then.
Bye, guys.